Moving on to the other focus tonight on the latest situation in Kerala. All the three defence forces along with several teams of NDRF are all busy as we speak with the rescue operations in Kerala. So far at least 21 people have died. And I say at least over there because that number seems to be only going up. And heavy rains, this is all thanks to the heavy rains that have triggered landslides in Idukki and Kottayam districts as well. Houses, just look at that on your screen. Houses, people, livelihoods just disappeared in just a flash. Situation so bad that even the Lord Appa devotees have been asked to avoid visiting Sabrimala temple for a couple of days now. But what exactly is the situation currently? Let's cut across to Sneha Merikoshi joining us live now. Sneha, two things that really stand off as this point. One, that there was no alert. Generally, the Met Department and other services have managed to understand whenever we see heavy rainfall, we've managed to evacuate people. We were getting pretty good at this, but this time no alert obviously means more casualties.
Well, Sonal, this perhaps is one of the most important points, and specifically because Kerala has been flood battered over the last few years repeatedly in several instances, whether it be flood battered or whether it be hit by landslides. And yet if you look, 16th of October, there were very heavy rainfalls across Kerala, several districts. But if you look at the forecast that was given on 15th October evening, I'm not even talking about 15th morning, 15th October evening, the forecast that were given were just about yellows and oranges and greens. There was no orange alert also, that too just for 2 districts. So if you look at really what the forecast was and what it turned out, not even within 24 hours, because by 16th October morning, there was severe rainfall in several parts of Kerala. So that being one of the biggest challenges, who do you hold responsible for these lives that have been lost? Because if you look at the, if you go through the information that you've been getting through the day, grim reality. If you think about the 3 children whose bodies were recovered in Idukki and they were just hugging each other. Families that would have been swept off just in a matter of seconds because they were just about doing their work, not even knowing that there was something as alert as a red alert lingering anywhere around them, because there was no red alert. So what does one do in situations like this? That being one. 2, it continued to rain heavily on the 16th. 17th, the intensity decreased. So really it was on 17th that rescue and relief teams could even manage to reach the locations in most of the cases. And I'm talking about the severely landslide hit areas. And it has been extremely challenging for them on the ground, because even though the intensity of rainfall has declined, the ground, the mud, all of it was extremely slippery. And to just see bodies after bodies coming out, and yet another year when this is happening in Kerala, was extremely difficult. A lot of things that need to change on ground, but most importantly, one of the questions that need to be answered, why couldn't any system that is in place tell the people even 12 hours before that there's going to be very heavy rainfall in the areas that you are?
Important questions over there, and then of course the human tragedy, the cost of it all. Sneha also sent us this detailed report. Take a look.
Massive search and rescue operations underway in landslide affected areas of Kottayam and Idukki. After over 30 hours since the landslide and heavy flooding that swept away several houses, at least 21 bodies have been recovered from Kerala's 2 districts. Search operations continue.
Families swept away in seconds. Bodies of 3 children under the age of 8 recovered in Idukki were found hugging each other. Perhaps just an indicator of the trauma that many have gone through.
The worst affected area in Kottayam, where a family including 5 children was swept away, has never seen landslides before, according to officials. The flooding too was unexpected according to locals, with no IMD red alert even the previous evening. Survivors are still in shock.
ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് അവരുടെ വീടിൻ്റെ മുകളിലോട്ട് മണ്ണിടിഞ്ഞ് വീഴുകയും വീട് നിന്ന് ഒലിച്ചു പോവുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു.
കുട്ടികളുടെ സ്കൂളിലെ സർട്ടിഫിക്കറ്റ് ഉൾപ്പെടെ എല്ലാം നശിച്ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇനി സർക്കാർ ഇവർക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും കനിഞ്ഞു നൽകിയാലേ ഇവരുടെ ജീവിതം മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകത്തുള്ളൂ. നാശം ഭയങ്കരമാണ്. ഇവിടെ മാത്രമല്ല, ഈ പ്രദേശത്തെ എല്ലാ വീടുകളും വെള്ളപ്പൊക്കത്തിൽ നശിക്കുകയും ഒരുപാട് നാശനഷ്ടങ്ങളാണ് ചെയ്തത്. അപ്രതീക്ഷിതമായി ഉണ്ടായ ഒരു സംഭവമായിരുന്നത്.
Army, NDRF, Fire Force teams continue their rescue efforts with key state ministers and the opposition leader on the ground.
രാവിലെ ഇന്നിവിടെ മന്ത്രിമാരുടെ യോഗം ഇവിടെ ചേർന്നിരുന്നു. ആ ചേർന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ എടുത്ത തീരുമാനം ഇപ്പം 4 ലക്ഷം രൂപ വെച്ച് മരിച്ച വീടുകൾക്ക് ധനസഹായം എത്തിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞു. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അവരുടെ ശവസംസ്കാര ചടങ്ങുകൾക്കുള്ള എല്ലാ സഹായവും ചെയ്യുന്നു.
The Prime Minister too called Kerala Chief Minister, assuring him all help from the centre. Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
All right, let's try and deep dive into this question of why there was no alert first up. And also, we'll be joined very shortly by the NDRF representative as well to try and understand the current situation in Kerala. Let's first, however, go across to retired Air Vice Marshal JP Sharma joining us. He's the President Meteorology and Climate Change at SkyMet. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Sharma. I just want to start by asking you, I was just discussing with Sneha as well the same question. How come there was no alert this time? And this lack of an alert has made a difference between life and death for so many people. Shed some light on what happened.
Yes, Sonal, I was listening to the correspondent Sneha, wherein she did mention, and obviously the gravity of a situation that was clear. Really, it's a tragic. Now, as far as the alarms are concerned, being a weather company, SkyMet, what we do here is through our website, through our app, through our videos which we produce in our studio, we highlight the impact of such situations. And then from our side, if you see, we have done it amply. Okay, it is much before. Even the earlier spell, which was on 11th and 12th of October, also it was fairly heavy. And the heaviest one, obviously, that was yesterday, starting with 16th of October.
But there was no red alert in the region, sir, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
There was no red alert, there was orange in just one district. That's also correct?
I believe there were 5 districts, the alert, but that is obviously the privilege and the duty of the weather agency, National Weather Agency. But I believe there was at least 5 districts. There were in the north, like Idukki, Mahe, Kottayam, and right up to Thrissur and Patmantitta. These were the areas which were largely affected, heavily, very heavy downpour. Can you imagine? Firstly, this is very, very timely, untimely, and unprecedented rains have occurred. Normally, it doesn't happen. But then the situation turned out so grave that the record-breaking rainfall, which is possibly unmanageable also, in a short span of time, in just about 6 hours of time, rainfall of the tune of about more than 100 millimeter, it's almost a cloud burst over a region. The terrain of the state as such, that further complicates the problem. It's basically north-south oriented, the state, and having a seashore on one side, entire length, and the Ghats on the other side. The mountains are there. It's a very, very tricky terrain as such, and it multiplies the gravity of the situation as such, particularly now in this time when the heavy rains are there. The reason also I see is the monsoon season was very mild this time for the state. June, July, August, they remained. June, July was rather very, very poor. But the departing month of September, as it happened for most of Pan-India subdivisions also, the state was excess rains.
Okay,
and that is where the story starts.
Thank you for addressing that question of why there was no alert in the first place. But I just want to get to the next point here. How much do you think this sudden, you're saying it's almost like a cloud burst sort of a situation that has happened in Kerala. How much of this is actually related to climate change?
It is. Firstly, I will say that it was not, I do not know how the correspondents, they have to report to this stage that no alert was there. I'm really shocked. As I said, yes, at our level, at our SkyMet, in case you see, we thought we did our bit. But then, coming to your question, climate change is becoming a reality. Okay, what climate change does is, we have been repeatedly saying, the high impact weather events, they become a little frequent, they become untimely, they become prolonged. So threefold dimensional effects are there of this, and all that happened during this time. And particularly the last 2 days, obviously there was a misery as far as the rains were concerned. There was literally a downpour. You see, all the water bodies of the state as such, courtesy September, huge rainfall, they were already full. I will say the October month also started. As of today, in the last 24 hours, can you imagine? There have been 800% of normal rainfall in 24 hours. 800%.
Wow.
But then halfway through the month itself, the state is about 200%. So it has been unprecedented, these heavy rains.
Hold that thought, sir, because I want to come back and I want to talk about what exactly is the prediction now for the coming days, and is the situation likely to get any better? But before we get into that, let me also bring in Rekha Nambiar, Senior Commandant, 4th Battalion of the NDRF. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Just quickly want to understand from you, what currently is the situation on the ground? How much of clearance of debris still remains? What is going to be your area of focus for the next few hours?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me on. I'd like to start out by saying that I have 11 teams deployed in Kerala state. 6 teams have been pre-positioned in Kerala for the past few days, and 5 teams have been requisitioned as of yesterday, and they've got deployed today. Regarding the ground situation, there was torrential rainfall all of yesterday, which has eased up in some parts of Kerala today. So at this point, we have only a few districts on which our primary focus is going to be. As you already know, there's been the landslide that has happened in Idukki, so our operations will continue there. We have 2 teams there. In addition to this, we are going to be focusing on Pathanamthitta, Alappe and Thrissur tomorrow, where 3 rivers are flowing at full level.
I see.
Those rivers are Chalakudi, Manimala and Achankovil. Given the fact that it is flowing at almost full capacity, we are preemptively putting our teams there should there be a requirement for evacuation along the borders. Right now, the IMD prediction is that there will not be excessive rain in these areas. If there isn't, then there may not be a need for evacuation. However, we are erring on the safe side by deploying our teams there.
Right. Ma'am, currently the death toll stands at 21. Are you expecting that to grow?
The current death toll stands at 23, but...
okay, let's update that, yeah.
It's a little difficult to predict how this will go. We will do our utmost to cap it at this level to make sure there are no more such incidents. But really, we can only do the best that we can to prevent a natural disaster. I don't think we can
of course
assure of controlling it.
Right.
Yes.
Ma'am, could you tell me as of this moment, when were you first alerted about the situation in Kerala? We're just trying to understand what exactly went wrong. How is it that alerts weren't sounded much earlier?
No, I don't think that would be a correct way of describing it, because as I told you, our teams have been pre-deployed since 14th. So it is not that this is not, there's been no alert, but there is only this much you can prepare against a natural disaster. And as the speaker just before me was saying, there has been torrential rainfall over the past 48 odd hours. So that water does have to go somewhere. And there are many factors for that. So yesterday, an additional 5 teams were requisitioned, but the initial request came in on 14.
Are you looking for some more teams to be pulled in as of this moment, ma'am? I understand you're saying thankfully because of no further rain, the efforts now are shifting towards rescue and clearing of debris?
Yes, definitely. We will continue these operations. Right now, we don't have any distress call of anybody whose life is at risk at the moment. So we will be focusing on debris clearance in Idukki and wherever else that is required. And as I told you, preemptively, we will be deploying in places where if rainfall continues, we feel we will be required.
All right, Rekha Nambiar, thank you so much, ma'am, and good luck with all the efforts that you and your team are making in Kerala. Let me go back to our panelist from SkyMet there. Mr. Sharma is still with us. Mr. Sharma, then quickly, what exactly is the weather prediction for the coming days and some areas that you think should be on the watch out list? Of course, NDRF also saying as of this moment that they've already deployed preemptively some teams in those areas.
Sonal, I will say that the worst is over for this event. There is hardly any weather activity expected. Tomorrow, I will say. Today, yes, again, some pockets, they did have some moderate rainfall. But tomorrow onwards, significant improvement is expected, at least for the subsequent 48 hours. We must understand, you see, all the water bodies which are there in the state, be it dams, reservoirs, be it the riverines, canals and all, they are all full, overflowing. And let me tell you, all these water bodies, they keep reacting even after the rains have stopped. Let's keep that in mind. So let's not lower our guard that the weather activity has reduced and therefore we can take on. This is the situation there. Obviously, it's very grim. And by virtue of these water bodies responding even till about 24 hours, therefore we keep our guards on. Okay, yes, weather is going to improve tomorrow onwards, surely. But then please keep it in mind, we are just approaching the prim of the northeast monsoon season. Southwest monsoon is nearly over. Northeast monsoon comes in, though northeast monsoon is not as heavy as the southwest monsoon for the state of Kerala. We remember 2018 and 19, month of July and August, there was a huge floods over the states. But then still, month of October is the rainiest of northeast monsoon also for the state of Kerala. Let's keep it in mind. It's shortly, possibly within about a week, you are going to have onset of even northeast monsoon also.
All right. So what I'm taking away from your conversation today is that the worst is over for now, but we have to brace ourselves for another round of rain and prepare accordingly. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Sharma, and explaining in detail to us what exactly is the weather condition like in Kerala.